What's up, everyone? Back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing yet another beer from the Founders Brewing Company, and they're headquartered in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and this is their KBS Chocolate Cherry, and this is a part of their Barrel Age series, and this is the 2023 release. So they're calling this one Imperial Stout aged in bourbon barrels, and then on the back of the label it says malt beverage with the natural flavors, and on the side of the label it says barrel-aged Imperial Stout with coffee, chocolate, chocolate syrup, cherry, and cherry extract. It comes in at 11.6% alcohol by volume, 45 IBUs at the time of review. This bottle is just under 2 months old. So we have another KBS variant, so to speak, and it's chocolate cherry. Now, I don't know if they released this one because of Valentine's Day, which is upcoming, or just because it's just a new variant. But yeah, we have chocolate cherry. Now, a lot of times with these variants, they can be disappointing. It can be delicious. Last year I reviewed the maple mackinac fudge, which was really good, and I reviewed the hazelnut, which was pretty solid. I've always enjoyed the base KBS, although I have not had it since they kind of made it year round, and I want to try all the variants because why not? The only one I didn't was the cinnamon vanilla. It just didn't, I don't know, just for some reason I didn't pick that one up. Anyway, let's see what this one has to offer. Now, I will say the one concern is the cherry aspect here. Not only are they using cherry and then cherry extract, but a lot of times with cherry and darker beers, it sometimes comes off as like medicinal, so you get that like cherry cough syrup vibe. Or like other beers like Bell's Cherry Stout, you get like that, they use like tart cherry juice, and the tartness from the cherries kind of mixes weird with the rest of the beer. So I'm hoping that this actually works well. So let's pour it into the hashtag proper glassware and see what we got going on. So that looks a bit thick pouring out. A little bit thicker than usual, at least when it comes to these KBSs. So is that a good sign? Yeah, maybe it is, because the one knock I always have about KBS and the variants and whatnot, usually a bit thin. It's kind of like Dragon's Milk from New Holland's. I just know like the New Holland Dragon Milk beers are going to be a little thin. And usually the case for KBS, but we'll see. So yeah, that pours out it's good, more a deep dark brown. On camera it's going to look pitch black, but yeah, in person, deep dark brown. You really can't see through it. Has about a finger of a straight on brown to almost dark brown colored head. Looks super creamy and inviting. There is some nice alcohol legs and almost 12%, almost sheets covering the glass. So yeah, looks nice. Let's get a nose. All right. Smells like KBS. It has coffee. There's like a nice medium coffee roast. There's a big roasty, toasty kind of, I don't want to say charred malt, but it's definitely, the malt's kind of a little bit more roasty and toasty than normal. There's a touch of a bourbon and like a vanillin, so you get the vanilla, you get the oak. There's a big chocolate note too, but I typically get that a lot of times in KBS. Not really getting the cherry. Maybe a slight cherry after swirling it up. Yeah, maybe. So I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. It'll depend on the taste, but this is giving me like regular KBS vibes with a little bit more of an intense chocolate and a slight like dark fruit, like a nuance of dark fruit that I necessarily wouldn't be able to say is straight on cherry. It would just be like maybe a dark stone fruit of some sort, but not necessarily cherry. It smells sweet, but like not overly so. Oh, yeah, I mean, this honestly smells like KBS with a little bit of chocolate, a little bit of like a dark stone fruit. That's it. Doesn't smell bad. It smells pretty good. It smells a little bit boozy. I guess I should be happy that I'm not getting like an artificial cherry. They're using cherry extract. It's not coming off as medicinal. Barely noticing the cherry, which again, I wouldn't say is cherry if I was doing this blind. And the chocolate's nice. Chocolate's a little bit sweeter. A lot of times with KBS, you don't get sweet chocolate. It's like sweet dark chocolate. Yeah, it smells pretty damn good. Chocolate cherry, a little bit. Anyway, let's get into it. Cheers to everyone. Okay. All right, sitting here and letting it sit on my palate. Okay. Okay. Letting, how many times did I say, okay. Scarface. Okay. I was just looking for the cherry and chocolate, and I found it on the finish. It's pretty nice. Not gonna lie, pretty nice. All right, body mouthfeel. Body's thin. It's always thin with KBS. I don't think it's as substantially thin as a lot of times I get with KBS, certainly the variants, but it's thin. This is like higher side of medium body, lower side of full. It's almost 12%. I'd like to see this medium to just straight on full body. But it's the one, like when you're drinking this beer, you at least I do. And other folks out there, you might be like, oh, the body's perfect. It's thick. For me, I don't want necessarily need this chewy, but I want full body. It's a bit thin. So I'm accustomed to that with KBS. So I'm not even disappointed because it is what it is with a lot of these beers from them. So I'm fine with it. I expected it. The mouthfeel has a decent carbonation. That's like mild to moderately carbonated, more approaching moderate side of things. But it does have a nice smooth finish to it. There's a slight creamy sensation too. The taste, I will say for me, the one thing kind of stopping this from me going nuts over it and like just really liking it, because I do enjoy the finish. This beer to my palate, and again, everybody has a different palate. I don't know why in all my reviews I have to say that, because everybody should know beer, like a lot of things in life, are subjective. So for everybody who says this beer is going to be amazing, there's going to be the flip side, which people will be like, that's not amazing and I don't like it. And there'll be people in between. The one thing stopping me from really going, man, this is a great variant, my entire palate is super dry and it has like an oak tannin kind of dryness to it. And that's one critique I have with KBS, depending on the vintage. Sometimes the oak tannin, perceived oak tannin dryness is just, it's big. And I feel like I'm getting that here. Now, again, your mileage may vary, but that's what I'm picking up on. Right up front, roasted malt. Like I said, a little bit more roasty than normal. And there's a really nice kind of like caramel feel too, along with that roasted malt caramel. There's light to medium roast coffee. All hits me at the forefront. As it passes through, the chocolate sneaks in. And at first, it's like a little bit of a bittering chocolate, like a baker's chocolate or a cocoa powder. But then it starts to get a bit sweeter, kind of into your like 40-50% cacao bars, maybe even approaching to like a Hershey's special dark chocolate. And then the cherry pops in. And the cherry is nuanced, it's subtle, it's not over the top. But what it starts to do is mix with that and intertwine with that chocolate, right? And then about 2/3 of the way through the palate onto the finish, I'm left with this. I guess the best way to explain it for me is the bourbon comes in, so you get a little bit of vanilla, you get the oak, obviously the tannins, but you also get a touch of the bourbon itself. It turns into, if they exist, and again, most things exist, a cherry cordial, but if it was like a bourbon cherry cordial, something in that realm. And that's why I said the finish is pretty awesome, because I'm left with a bourbon-esque cherry cordial. And I love cherry cordials. If I could find a bourbon cherry cordial, like, I guess if, you know the booze candies they have, chocolate candies with like the 5% booze candy in the middle, like it's usually like some kind of cream or syrup or whatever. It's if they had a cherry cordial version of that with like bourbon in the middle. That's kind of what I'm getting on the finish. What I appreciate about this one, at least to my palate, is the cherry isn't A, over the top. B, it's not artificial. It doesn't have that, that medicinal kind of cherry cough syrup vibe. It has a very subtle, like maraschino cherry kind of feeling to it, and I like that. The problem for me from like this, without that dry oak tannin presence, this beer would be like a 4 or 5 or higher for me. I'm really digging the flavors, but as I sit here and talk, I feel like I have no saliva left on the palate, although I do. My tongue just has this very dry sensation, and it's the dryness of this beer. It's pretty sweet, but the dryness kind of kills it for me. I should say kills it, but it balances it out, but then it takes it too far. So it's mild to moderately bitter, but that dryness, like it's that cherry cordial feeling. It's like, oh man, this is a sweet kind of, not over the top, but nice, sweet kind of bourbon cherry cordial finish. And then I just sit here, my mouth just becomes drier and drier and drier. So that's the one knock I have on this, is the dryness of it, and it's an oak tannin dryness, and I'm not a huge fan of that. But the flavors are fucking dynamite, honestly. There's a little bit of booze on the palate. I just took that last sip, and it kind of reminded me to talk about the ABV, because sometimes in reviews I forget, but kind of stung the back of the throat just for a second. So you can notice the ABV. I would guess at least 11% if I was doing this blind. Not a huge, like, over the top, like, heat or warming in my chest, but definitely back of the throat. There's a little bit of a burning sensation. Overall, though, like, I can't complain too much about this one. I think it's pretty good. Where do I want to go with this? All right, so I think without that dry oak tannin kind of finish, I would 100% give this like a 4.6 out of 5. Like, flavor-wise, chocolate cherry, yes. It's if they just called it cherry cordial, I think that'd be more appropriate, but chocolate cherry. But here's the thing. If you can see the label, you know, my camera's not the best, but there's little pieces of candy on here. And I think, for me, yeah, cherry cordial makes perfect sense. But that dryness, I have to knock it down. How far does this go on the scale downwards? I'm going to give KBS Chocolate Cherry, part of the Barrel Age series, the 2023 release. I'm still going to give this a low 4.25 out of 5. I'm going to go exactly 4.2 out of 5. I think that's where this beer lands for me. They do have a little bit of a write-up on the back, which we'll read real quick. It says, our flag, and I did not read this. A lot of times with Founders, I always forget they have like a paragraph in the back. It says, our flagship bourbon barrel aged Imperial Stout shows off its more romantic side with KBS Chocolate Cherry. So yeah, they are going for Valentine's Day. The rich sweetness of chocolate and slight coffee bitterness will blend perfectly with the brightness of cherry juice. So they're using cherry juice. It just said cherry and cherry extract. Okay. To bring you an alluring sensory experience perfect for cozying up with your sweetie. So yeah, maybe they are going for a cherry cordial. If they are, yeah, they did a great job. Be honest with you, they did a great job. It's just that oak tannin dryness, or even if it's not an oak tannin dryness, just a regular dryness, really big. Price point availability, $24 a four pack here in Buffalo, New York. That's, you know, $6 a bottle. Bit pricey. Some of the KBS variants and some of like the backwoods bastard, like French toast bastard, was like 16 or 17 bucks a 4-pack. So $6 a bottle. Would I pay that again for this? 4.2 out of 5. Maybe if I wanted, you know, a cherry cordial-esque Imperial Stout that's barrel aged. Is it a bad price? I don't think it's a bad price to try. I don't think I'd necessarily buy it again, but it's not a bad price. Availability, wherever you see Founders. And if you see KBS in any of the variants, you should have already seen this one. If not, it should be on the shelves right now. And yeah, I'm really curious, because as I'm reviewing this on Untappd, I have like maybe like 4, maybe 5 people on my Untappd friends list that have tried this one. Varying degrees of opinions on it. So I don't have much feedback in terms of like my friends in the beer tubing community, or even just the beer community in general. So if you've had this one before, please post in the comment section. Let me know what you thought about it. I'm sure there's going to be varying opinions, from this beer sucks to this beer is delicious. I would lean more towards it's delicious. And I think without that kind of dryness, this would be one of the best KBS variants I've ever had, if not the best KBS variant, if you're not counting CBS as a variant. So yeah, not much more to say about, like I said, 11.6%. Definitely boozy, one of the more boozy KBSs I've had. So yeah, gonna shut it down. Appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. To the next one. Cheers.